Tonight we begin with something a little different, a story cloaked in the shadows of ancient Rome. A time of marble gods, sprawling villas, and secrets whispered on the warm Mediterranean breeze. We're diving into the life of one of history's most misunderstood women, an empress whose name became a legend. Forget the stark, cold histories carved in stone. The truth is far more fragile, more human. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air in your room is warm and thick, heavy with the scent of lemon oil from the polished wooden furniture, and the distant sweet perfume of jasmine climbing the courtyard walls. Through the open, unglazed window, the sounds of Rome drift up from below. The faint rumble of wagon wheels on stone, the murmur of voices from the street, the occasional sharp cry of a merchant selling his wares. You are on the Palatine Hill, in the heart of the world, but your own world feels incredibly small. Your room is beautiful, a perfect cube of aristocratic comfort. The walls are covered in delicate frescoes of birds and blooming flowers, and the floor is a mosaic of a playful dolphin chasing a fish. It's a gilded cage, and you have known it as your only home for all of your 15 years. You trace the pattern on the silk of your couch, the fabric cool and smooth beneath your fingertips. You are Valeria Messalina, a name that carries the weight of history. Through your mother, Domitia Lepida, you are descended from the great Mark Antony and from Octavia, the revered sister of the first emperor, Augustus himself. This lineage is not a point of pride so much as a heavy cloak you are forced to wear. It means your every move, every friendship, every potential future is a matter of state. It is a verifiable detail that your bloodline is both your greatest asset and your tightest chain. You are a pawn in a game played by powerful men, and you have always known this day would come. Your old nurse, who has long since shed the official title of Nutrix but will forever hold the position in your heart, enters the room without a sound. She carries a small silver cup of watered wine, cooled with snow brought down from the mountains. This was a surprising custom to many, but for the wealthy of Rome, it was a simple luxury. She sets it down beside you, her weathered hand briefly touching your shoulder. Her presence is a silent comfort, a reminder of a childhood that is rapidly slipping away. She has been with you since you were a baby, her quiet strength a constant in your life. She knows, without you saying a word, the anxiety that hums beneath your skin today. One can almost feel the unasked question hanging in the air between you. You take a sip of the cool wine. It does little to soothe the knot in your stomach. Earlier this morning, your father summoned you to the tablinum, the formal study where he conducts his business. It's a severe room, lined with wooden cabinets holding scrolls of family records and busts of grim-faced ancestors staring down from their pedestals. The air in there always smells of old papyrus and power. He didn't smile. He simply told you that a match had been made, a suitable one, an important one. The name he spoke was not one you would have ever expected. Tiberius Claudius Nero Germanicus, your distant cousin. A man nearly 50 years old. You have seen him, of course, at various family functions. A stooped, scholarly figure who often seems to be in a world of his own. He is the brother of the beloved hero Germanicus and the uncle of the current emperor, the terrifying Caligula. But Claudius himself, he is the family's afterthought, the man they hide away. You've heard the cruel whispers, the jokes about his limp, his slight stammer, the way his head sometimes trembles. They say he's a fool, a harmless academic, lost in his Etruscan history books. It's a gentle sort of irony that in a family of gods and monsters, your destiny is to be tied to the one they all dismiss as merely odd. Your father explained it in clipped, practical terms. It is a strategic alliance, strengthening family ties within the Julio-Claudian dynasty. Your great beauty and impeccable lineage paired with his quiet, non-threatening station. You will be his third wife. The word hangs in the air, clinical and cold. There was no talk of affection, no pretense of romance. The announcement of a Roman aristocratic betrothal, the sponsalia, was not a celebration of love, but the signing of a contract. It carried all the warmth and charm of a business merger. You are simply a piece of property, being transferred from one household to another to seal a deal. Now, back in the quiet sanctuary of your room, you try to process it. You are to be married to a man older than your father, a man the rest of the world considers a joke. You walk to the window and look out over the tiled roofs of the city sprawling below. For a moment, you let yourself feel the sharp sting of disappointment. You had imagined, what? You aren't even sure. A handsome soldier, perhaps. A poet with kind eyes. A future you might have some small say in. Not this. Not a life sentence with a living relic. But then, another thought, quiet and subversive, enters your mind. Claudius is considered harmless, unambitious. Perhaps you think a life with him would be a different kind of freedom. A life lived in the quiet shadows of the imperial court, away from the terrifying, unpredictable glare of the emperor himself. If your husband is ignored, perhaps you will be too. Perhaps you could carve out a small private world for yourself within the grand estate of a man lost in his studies. It's a flicker of hope in the suffocating formality of your fate. The sun is beginning to set, casting long, dramatic shadows across the city and painting the sky in hues of orange and deep purple. Your nurse lights the small oil lamps, their soft golden glow pushing back the encroaching twilight. The flame dances, and for a moment, it illuminates a small, carved wooden bird on your dressing table, a simple toy from your childhood. You pick it up, its familiar shape a comfort in your hand. That girl, the one who played with this bird, is gone. In her place is a woman whose future has been written for her on a scroll, sealed and delivered, and yet, one can only imagine what was truly sealed with that pact, what silent promises you were making to yourself as the city lights began to twinkle below. Your first few years of marriage are a quiet, predictable rhythm. Life with Claudius is much as you anticipated. A calm, scholarly existence on the fringes of imperial power. He is a kind man, in his own absent-minded way, more interested in the lost language of the Etruscans than in the venomous politics of his nephew Caligula's court. You live in a comfortable villa, not the grand palace, and your days are your own. You have a daughter Octavia, and then a son, a precious boy you name Britannicus. You are a wife and a mother, a Roman matrona of high standing, but you are blessedly invisible. It is a strange sort of peace, this life in the shadow of a man the world has forgotten. You have everything you need, and more importantly, you have a life blessedly free from the emperor's erratic, dangerous attention. This quiet life is the one you have accepted, a gentle, predictable current carrying you along. Then, one day in January, the current becomes a tidal wave. The city awakens with a scream. News travels first as a panicked whisper, then a frantic shout through the streets. The emperor is dead. Caligula has been assassinated by his own guards in a palace corridor. Chaos erupts. The German guard, loyal to their fallen master, goes on a rampage. Senators, smelling a chance to reclaim power, begin to gather in the forum, their voices rising in a passionate debate about restoring the Republic. For a day, Rome hangs suspended, a city without a master. There is no heir, no plan. There is only a power vacuum, and the city holds its breath, waiting for it to be filled with either freedom or more blood. You hold your children close, the sounds of rioting a distant, terrifying drumbeat. In this moment, you are not a descendant of Augustus. You are just a mother, praying the violence does not reach your door. You hear nothing of your husband. He had been at the palace for the festival. Your mind conjures 100 terrible images. But the story that finally reaches you is more bizarre than anything you could have imagined. In the confusion following the assassination, as senators plotted and guards rampaged, your husband did the most Claudius-like thing imaginable. He hid. He found a secluded set of apartments and concealed himself behind a heavy velvet curtain, hoping the storm would pass him by. It's a moment of pure, undiluted fear, the reaction of a scholar, not a statesman. And it is there that a soldier of the Praetorian Guard, a man named Gratus, stumbling through the looted rooms, saw a pair of feet peeking out from beneath the drapery. This is the verifiable moment that changed the world. The soldier, thinking he had found some lucky courtier to rob, pulled the curtain aside. And there was Claudius, who tumbled to the floor, terrified, convinced his end had come. He clasped the soldier's knees and begged for his life. But Gratus, and the other guards who quickly gathered, did not see a coward. They saw the brother of Germanicus. They saw a familiar, imperial face. They saw their last and only chance to keep the power and the generous pay that came with having an emperor. In a moment of supreme historical irony, the guards did not draw their swords. They raised their hands in a salute. They hailed him as imperator. The man who was hiding from history was suddenly dragged, blinking and terrified, into its very centre. A messenger arrives at your villa, his horse lathered in sweat, his eyes wide with a kind of manic glee. He tells you the story. The Praetorians have taken your husband to their fortified camp. They have acclaimed him emperor. The Senate, after a night of futile, blustering speeches, has been forced to concede. They had the arguments, but the guard had the swords. Your husband, Claudius, the stuttering academic, is the new master of the Roman world. The news is so absurd, so impossible, that for a moment you feel a bubble of laughter rise in your throat. It is the universe telling its greatest joke. The world tilts on its axis. Within hours, your quiet life is dismantled. Guards arrive, not to threaten, but to protect. You and your children are escorted through the unsettled streets to the Palatine Hill. You are moving into the palace. The very air inside the vast, cavernous complex is thick with tension. You see servants scrubbing furiously at dark stains on the marble floors, their faces pale and tight. Courtiers who would have barely acknowledged you a day before now bow so low their foreheads nearly touch the ground. Their eyes are filled with a new, calculating fear. The silence in the long corridors is a living thing, a testament to the brutal, sudden shift in power. Your personal attendants are replaced by a new staff, chosen for you. They bring you the new uniform of your station. The simple stola of a noblewoman is replaced by a magnificent gown of fine wool and silk, its borders embroidered with thread of pure Tyrian purple. The dye alone is worth more than your entire former villa. It is a shockingly expensive and exclusive colour, a visual representation of power, and an obscure but powerful custom that screamed one's status across a crowded room. They place new jewels around your neck and on your arms, their weight unfamiliar and cold against your skin. They address you with a new title, Augusta, Empress. The word feels foreign in your own ears, a costume you are not yet sure how to wear. Later, you stand on a high balcony overlooking the city. Claudius is beside you, looking just as stunned as you feel. He is wearing the full imperial regalia, and it hangs on his scholarly frame as if on a stranger. Below, a vast crowd has gathered. When they see you, a roar goes up, a sound so immense it feels like a physical blow. It is the sound of a million voices, a million hopes and fears, all directed at you, and the trembling man beside you. The gilded cage of your youth has shattered, but in its place is this, a stage as wide as the world, blindingly bright and terrifyingly high. The quiet, predictable future you had resigned yourself to has vanished as if it were a dream at dawn. In the heartbeat between one breath and the next, the entire world has been remade, and you are standing at its absolute center. The first morning you wake in the palace, the silence is the first thing you notice. It's not the peaceful, domestic quiet of your old villa. This is a vast, echoing silence, filled with the weight of empire and the ghosts of those who have walked these halls before you. As you step from your bedchamber, your bare feet meeting the cold, polished marble, the sheer scale of your new home is breathtaking. You walk down a long corridor lined with the busts of your own ancestors. There is Augustus, his face a mask of serene authority. There is his wife, Livia, whose subtle power shaped the very foundations of the empire. And there is your own grandmother, Antonia, a woman famed for her virtue and dignity. Before, they were just family stories, portraits on a wall. Now, their cold marble eyes seem to follow you, silently judging, questioning if you are worthy to stand among them. Your new life quickly falls into a routine, but it is the inverse of everything you have ever known. The morning begins with the salutatio, the traditional greeting ceremony. For your entire life, this ritual involved being the client, accompanying your father or husband to the home of a more powerful patron to pay your respects and ask for favor. Now, the roles are shockingly reversed. You sit in a receiving room, the air thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and the faint rustle of silk and fine wool, and the great men of Rome come to you. Senators, their togas marked with the broad purple stripe of their rank, who once would have offered you a condescending pat on the head, now bow and call you Augusta. Wealthy equestrians and ambitious young politicians wait for hours in your antechamber, hoping for a single word, a nod of acknowledgement that they can boast about in the forum. It's a deeply ingrained social custom, this morning parade of power, and your sudden elevation to its center is a daily lesson in the fickle nature of fortune. You quickly learn to master a small, neutral smile, a look of polite interest that promises nothing but keeps everyone hoping. You learn that your husband, the emperor, is a very busy man. He dives into the administration of the empire with the same obsessive focus he once gave his history scrolls. He spends his days hearing legal cases, planning aqueducts, and writing decrees. This leaves the daily, human currents of the palace in the hands of others. You soon realize that the true power does not lie with the blue-blooded senators or the swaggering legionary commanders. It rests in the surprisingly capable hands of a trio of former slaves, the imperial freedmen. They are Claudius's most trusted advisors, his shadow cabinet. This is a startling historical reality. The day-to-day running of the Roman Empire was largely in the hands of men who had once been property. There is Narcissus, the head of correspondence. He is sharp, impossibly efficient, and sees himself as the guardian of the emperor's authority. He reads every letter, every report, Every petition that comes to the palace, not exactly a text message, but his control over the flow of information gives him immense power. He is polite to you, but his eyes are like chips of flint, constantly assessing your influence, viewing you as a potential threat to his own unparalleled access to Claudius. Then there is Pallas, the man in charge of the imperial treasury. He is smoother than Narcissus, with an easy smile that never quite reaches his eyes. He understands that money is the true language of power, and he speaks it fluently. He amasses a fortune that would make kings weep, all while managing the empire's finances with breathtaking skill. He sees the world as a grand ledger of assets and liabilities, and you get the distinct impression he is still calculating your worth. And finally, there is Callistus, the master of petitions and legal affairs. He is the most charming of the three, a connoisseur of art and gossip. His network of informants stretches into every noble house and every dusty corner of the city. He knows who is in debt, who is having a forbidden affair, and who is secretly nursing a dangerous ambition. A whispered word from Callistus can shatter a reputation as easily as a hammer shatters glass. These three men, bound by their shared history as slaves and their fierce competing ambition, are the true gatekeepers of power. They respect Claudius's intellect, but see his trusting nature as a weakness to be managed. They are polite to you, the new empress, but it is the strained politeness one shows to a beautiful, unpredictable animal. You are a new piece on the board, and they are still deciding how to play you. A small test comes early. During your salutatio, a noble woman of an old and respected family, a friend of your mother's, comes to you. With tears in her eyes, she begs you to intercede for her brother, a senator exiled by Caligula on flimsy charges. Your heart goes out to her. Your first instinct, your human instinct, is to promise you will help. But you stop. You see, out of the corner of your eye, one of Callistus's junior clerks watching from the doorway. You realize this is not a simple request for mercy. This is a move in a game you are just beginning to understand. To support this family might be to oppose a faction favored by Narcissus. To refuse might make an enemy of a powerful clan. You give the woman your most compassionate, non-committal smile. Your family's loyalty to the emperor is well known, you say, your voice soft. I will of course give this matter my full consideration. It is a meaningless, perfect political answer. In the vastness of the palace, surrounded by hundreds of servants, guards, and courtiers, you feel a new and profound loneliness. Claudius is affectionate in his brief moments of leisure, but his mind is on draining the Fucine lake or reforming the alphabet. The friends of your youth are now supplicants, their conversations strained and artificial. You are the Empress, and that title is a wall of glass between you and the rest of the world. The only ones who seem to understand the intricate machinery of your new life are the freedmen, but every conversation with them feels like a delicate negotiation. In this world of polished marble and polished smiles, you realize the most dangerous things are the ones left unsaid. And so you learn to listen, to watch, to exist in the quiet spaces, understanding that your survival here depends not on what you say, but on what you hear in the whispers in the marble halls. The days in the palace settle into a pattern, each one a careful performance. You are the Empress. You smile, you listen, you wear the purple robes, and you play your part in the grand theatre of the state. But beneath the surface, a quiet suffocation begins to set in. Every wall seems to have ears. Every corridor is a stage. You find yourself measuring your breath, choosing your words with the care of a poet. because a misplaced phrase could be twisted into a weapon and used against you by Narcissus or Pallas. You long for a place where you can be careless, a place where a sigh is just a sigh and not a commentary on imperial policy. The weight of being a symbol is immense, and you begin to search for a corner of the world where you can simply be a person. Your search leads you to a name spoken with a kind of reverence by the Roman elite, the Gardens of Lucullus. They are a sprawling legendary estate on the Pincian Hill, first laid out by a famously wealthy general a century ago. The current owner, you learn, is a man more interested in politics than horticulture, and the property is for sale. Using the subtle influence you are beginning to understand, and perhaps with the quiet, efficient help of the treasurer Pallas, who certainly knows a good investment when he sees one, you arrange for the imperial family to acquire them. The historians might later whisper that you forced the sale, but in your heart, you know you simply rescued something beautiful from neglect. You are not seizing property, you are claiming a sanctuary. When you first walk through the gates, you see the history and the potential. The gardens are a little wild, a little overgrown, but the bones are magnificent. Stone pines stand like ancient sentinels, and gnarled olive trees whisper in the breeze. There are terraces that cascade down the hillside, overgrown with ivy, and the faint, sad trickle of a fountain choked with leaves. While Roman men of your class practiced otium, their dignified leisure, by writing philosophy or studying law, you decide your otium will be this. The restoration of this garden will be your art, your poetry, your quiet act of creation in a life that has largely been about reaction. This is a socially acceptable pursuit for an empress, the cultivation of beauty. But for you, it feels like a deeply personal, almost subversive act. You throw yourself into the project. Architects and landscape designers are consulted, but the final vision is yours alone. You don't want a perfectly manicured, formal space like the public gardens near the Forum. You want a place that feels alive, a series of hidden rooms and secret discoveries. In one corner, you cultivate a grove of cypress trees, their dark, solemn forms creating a space for quiet contemplation. In another, you design a vibrant, chaotic flower garden filled with the lilies, poppies, and irises you remember from your childhood frescoes. You commission a new fountain, a simple basin of cool marble where water spills from a carved shell, its gentle splashing sound a constant, soothing presence. The work is a balm to your soul. You spend hours walking the paths with your head gardener, discussing the placement of a new rose bush, or the best way to train honeysuckle over a pergola. The smells of this world are clean and honest. The rich, dark scent of damp earth. The sharp perfume of lavender and rosemary crushed between your fingers. The intoxicating sweetness of roses warming in the afternoon sun. There is a logic here that is refreshingly absent from the palace. Pruning a vine to ensure it bears fruit is a far more straightforward task than trying to decipher the meaning behind one of Narcissus's thin smiles. A rose bush, at least, is honest about its thorns. Within the gardens, nestled in a sheltered spot with a commanding view of the city, you have a small, elegant villa built. It is nothing like the oppressive grandeur of the palace. Here, the rooms are airy and bright, the furniture is comfortable, and the art is chosen for its beauty, not its political significance. This becomes your true home. Here, you can shed the heavy imperial robes and the even heavier weight of being Augusta. You wear simple linen tunics, tie your hair back simply, and feel the sun on your skin. You bring your children, Britannicus and Octavia, to this place often. You watch them chase butterflies through the flower beds and paddle their hands in the cool stream of the fountain. Here, you are not the empress training an heir. You are a mother laughing with her son, a woman at peace. The palace is your office. This garden is your life. This sanctuary becomes the center of your personal world. The staff you choose for the villa are selected not for their connections, but for their quiet loyalty to you. A guard captain who asks no questions. A Greek handmaiden with clever fingers and a silent tongue. This is the beginning of a separate court, a household that revolves around Messalina, not just around the Empress. It is a subtle shift, but a significant one. You are building a world where you make the rules, where your comfort and your will are the primary concern. It is a necessary defense, a way to insulate your heart from the constant, grinding pressures of your public life. One evening, you are sitting on a marble bench near the fountain as dusk begins to settle. The frantic energy of Rome, humming in the valley below, feels a world away. The air is cool and fragrant. A single nightingale begins its song from the top of a cypress tree. In this moment, there are no petitions to consider, no rivalries to navigate, no performances to maintain. It is just you, the garden, and the approaching night. You take a slow, deep breath, and it feels like the first full breath you've taken in years. The palace on the Palatine Hill was the seat of your power, an instrument of the state. But this garden, this was the seat of your soul. And in the quiet safety of this personal kingdom, you have unknowingly prepared the perfect stage for a story no one, least of all you, could have ever seen coming. Life settles into a dual rhythm. There are the days of public performance in the marble halls of the palace, and there are the precious, sun-drenched hours of peace you steal for yourself in the sanctuary of your gardens. You have learned to navigate the treacherous currents of the court, to smile at Narcissus and offer a polite word to Pallas. You have carved out a space for yourself where you can breathe, but it is a life of quiet containment, a carefully managed existence. You believe you have found a sustainable peace, a way to endure the gilded cage that is your life as Empress. You have not yet realized that the most dangerous threats to a quiet life often arrive with a friendly smile. The moment comes, not in your private garden, but back in the heart of the palace, during a grand convivium, one of the endlessly formal dinner parties that Claudius insists on hosting. You are in your role as Augusta, reclining on a perfumed couch at the head of the room. The air is warm and thick with the smells of roasted peacock, spiced wine, and the cloying scent of the nard oil worn by the guests. The low murmur of 100 conversations blends with the soft music of a distant lyre. You watch the scene with a familiar sense of detachment, nodding and smiling as senators and their wives offer you practiced compliments. They are all playing their parts, just as you are. And then you see him, Gaius Silius. He is not the loudest man in the room, nor the most flamboyantly dressed. He is a senator, young for his station, but he carries himself with a calm assurance that sets him apart from the fawning courtiers and the grimly ambitious politicians. He is handsome, in a clean, classical way, but it is his stillness that catches your eye. He is simply observing, a small, ironic smile playing on his lips, as if he too understands the absurdity of this elaborate performance. You know who he is, of course. He is from one of Rome's most distinguished families, and is the consul designatus, the man chosen to be one of the 2 heads of state for the following year. It is the highest honour in the Republic's old system, and a verifiable sign that he is a man at the very pinnacle of Roman society. Later in the evening, as guests move between rooms, you find yourself momentarily alone near a high archway that opens onto a dark balcony. The cool night air is a welcome relief. Silius approaches, not with the hurried deference of the others, but with a slow, deliberate grace. The strict etiquette of the time would dictate that any conversation between you, a married empress, and him, a senator, be public, formal, and brief. A prolonged private chat was a breach of protocol that would set tongues wagging for weeks. He should simply bow and move on. He does not. "The air in the city is clearer from up here, Augusta," he says, his voice a low, pleasant baritone. He doesn't begin with a fawning compliment about your beauty or a tedious comment on the emperor's latest speech. He simply makes an observation, as one equal to another. "In the city," you reply, turning slightly to face him, "the air is mostly smoke and ambition." A genuine smile touches his lips. "And here in the palace?" "Here," you say, your voice barely above a whisper, "it is mostly perfume and secrets." The words are out before you can stop them. It is a dangerously honest thing to say. But he doesn't flinch or look away. He simply nods, a look of profound understanding in his dark eyes. He speaks of a new collection of poems from Greece, asking if you have had a chance to read them. He talks about the challenges of architecture, the way a building must have both strength and grace. He is not talking down to you or trying to impress you. He is conversing with you. It is a conversation so normal, so refreshingly intelligent, that it feels like a revelation. It's a quiet reminder of the woman you are beneath the imperial robes. A woman with a mind and thoughts of her own. A small, ironic smile touches your own lips, thinking how the most interesting conversations are always the ones you aren't supposed to be having. One of your ladies-in-waiting approaches, her expression a polite summons. The moment is over. You must return to your duties as hostess. You turn to Silius and give him a slight, formal nod of dismissal. But as you do, your eyes meet, and you both hold the gaze for a fraction of a second too long. There is no flirtation in it, no overt suggestion. It is something quieter and far more powerful. It is a flash of pure recognition, a silent acknowledgement that you both felt the same spark, the same brief, startling connection in a world of artifice. It was only a moment, a single beat of a heart, but in the rigid grammar of the court, a look like that was a full declaration. That night, sleep does not come easily. You lie awake in your vast, lonely bed, the scent of the dinner party still clinging to your hair. You think of your husband, Claudius, sleeping in his own chambers down the hall. He is a good man. He is your emperor, the father of your children. Your bond is one of duty and a quiet, familial affection. What you felt with Gaius Silius was something else entirely. It was a jolt of life, a sudden, sharp reminder that you are young and alive. The stolen glance, the conversation that felt like coming home to a place you'd never been, has planted a seed of something dangerous and beautiful in the carefully tended soil of your heart. You slip out of bed and walk to the window, looking out over the sleeping city. Your garden, your sanctuary, is a dark mass on the hill across the way. You have built a world to protect your peace, but you now have a secret that threatens to shatter it. It is a secret of your own making, born not of a grand political plot, but of a simple, human connection. And in the quiet of the Roman night, with a terrifying certainty that everything is about to change. After that night at the convivium, the world feels both smaller and infinitely larger. Smaller because your every waking thought seems to circle back to one person, to a single stolen glance. Larger because a hidden door has opened in your mind, revealing a possibility you had never dared to entertain. But the reality of your life is a fortress. You are the Empress, and your days are a public spectacle. He is Gaius Silius, the consul designatus, a man whose career depends on impeccable public conduct. You are both watched constantly by your ladies-in-waiting, by his political rivals, by the ever-present eyes of Narcissus and his network of informants. A direct meeting, a simple conversation, is a risk so great it is practically unthinkable. The consequences would not just be gossip, they would be accusations of treason. And so, necessity becomes the mother of invention. You cannot speak to him directly, but you must find a way to bridge the silent distance between you. Your mind turns to your sanctuary, the gardens, and to the small, loyal household you have built there. You summon a young Greek handmaiden named Lyra. She came to you not from a powerful family, but as a skilled weaver, and you value her for her clever mind and her quiet, observant nature. Her loyalty, you sense, is to you, Messalina, not to the institution of the Empress. This use of a trusted intermediary is a classic, verifiable feature of Roman life. A high-status woman's confidants were her lifeline. You look into Lyra's intelligent eyes and make a decision. You will trust her. You give her a simple task, to deliver a small, sealed note, not to Silius himself, but to his most trusted steward. The note contains no incriminating words. It is merely a query about a rare type of lily he is said to cultivate at his family's country estate. It is a simple, plausible request from one gardening enthusiast to another. His reply, which Lyra brings back the next day, is equally formal. But tucked within the papyrus scroll is a single, pressed crimson rose petal. You hold it in your palm, its velvety texture a stark contrast to the dry papyrus. A rose, the flower of Venus, the goddess of love. It is a whisper of a message, a secret hidden in plain sight. This is the beginning of your silent language. Drawing on the well-known symbolism of plants, an obscure but potent social custom, you and Silius begin a conversation that no one else can hear. It's a game of immense subtlety, a courtship conducted through botany. A sprig of rosemary from him, delivered by Lyra, means I remember. A query from you about the health of his laurel trees is a way of congratulating him on a recent victory in the Senate. It is an almost comical level of complexity just to communicate, a testament to the danger you both face. Your garden, once a symbol of your escape from the world, now becomes the dictionary of your heart. When Lyra brings you a message containing a crushed cypress leaf, you know he is feeling melancholy, or that caution is required. When you send her back with a simple, perfect white camellia from your favourite bush, you are telling him, you are adored. This secret language extends beyond the garden. If you receive a message from him in the morning, you might wear a sapphire brooch to your public duties that afternoon. A flash of blue that signals to him across a crowded room that his words reached you safely. He, in turn, might use a peculiar phrase in a public speech, a line from a Greek poem you once mentioned in a note, a word meant only for you, lost in a sea of political rhetoric. One could say your entire world was now composed of two languages, the loud, formal Latin of the court and the silent, living language of the garden. After weeks of this fragrant, clandestine correspondence, the longing to hear his voice again, to see his face not across a crowded room but up close, becomes an unbearable ache. The risk is immense, but the desire is greater. Through a series of carefully coded notes, a plan is made. A meeting. Not in the palace, never in the palace, but in your sanctuary, in the gardens of Lucullus. Lyra orchestrates everything with quiet efficiency. She arranges for the guards on duty that night to be men whose loyalty is to your purse, not to the emperor's security chief. she dismisses the rest of your household staff early. On the chosen night, the garden is steeped in shadow and moonlight. The air is cool and alive with the scent of night-blooming jasmine. You stand in the cypress grove, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs, listening. You hear his footsteps on the gravel path first, a soft crunching sound that seems impossibly loud in the stillness. Then he emerges from the shadows. He is dressed simply, a dark cloak hiding his familiar toga. For a long moment, you just look at each other, the relief and terror of the moment rendering you both speechless. The man from the dinner party, the author of 100 fragrant messages, is finally here. Augusta, he breathes, his voice even lower, even richer than you remembered. Gaius, you reply, and using his first name feels both utterly natural and shockingly illicit. You do not speak of grand passions or reckless promises. You speak of the things you cannot say to anyone else. He tells you of the suffocating ambition of his peers, the loneliness of his position. You tell him of the crushing weight of your title, of your fear of the freedmen, of your longing for a life that feels real. The conversation is a quiet torrent, a flood of thoughts and feelings kept dammed up for too long. To finally speak with someone who understands, who sees the cage as clearly as you do, is a gift beyond measure. He looks at you not as an empress, a symbol, or even a wife, but as a woman. The woman he has been writing to in the language of flowers. As he leaves, melting back into the shadows, the stolen glance from that long-ago party finally feels complete. It was a question, and this night, this secret meeting, was the answer. For a time, your secret world flourishes in the shadows. The language of flowers and coded notes continues to pass between your garden sanctuary and his city villa, a silent, fragrant stream of conversation. The rare, moonlit meetings in the cypress grove become the fixed stars in your emotional sky, moments of pure, unvarnished truth in a life built on performance. You move between your two lives with a careful grace, the dutiful empress, wife of Claudius, attending to the tedious ceremonies of state, and the woman who waits in a garden, her heart alive with a secret she shares with only one other person. You have built a fragile, beautiful balance, and for a short while, you allow yourself to believe it can last. But a secret in Rome is like a drop of ink in a pool of water. It cannot be contained. The whispers begin not in the gilded halls of the palace, where tongues are guarded, but in the noisy, steamy heart of the city itself. You imagine how it starts. A slave in Silius's household mentions to his brother, a barber, that his master seems distracted and has developed a sudden, intense interest in horticulture. The barber, while trimming the beard of a merchant, casually mentions this oddity. That merchant, later, while relaxing in the sprawling public baths, the Thermae, passes the story along to a friend. This is the true information network of your city, a verifiable democratic hub of news and gossip that flows more freely than any imperial decree. It's a gently ironic thought that the plebs in the public baths are often better informed than your husband is in his own palace. In the hot, echoing chambers of the baths, surrounded by steam and the sound of splashing water, the story grows. It twists and changes with each telling. Your frequent visits to the gardens of Lucullus, once seen as a charmingly eccentric hobby, are now reinterpreted. The beautiful young empress and the handsome, ambitious senator. It's a story too perfect, too scandalous to resist. In Rome, you understand, a rumor doesn't need to be true to travel. It just needs to be good. And your story is very, very good. The atmosphere around you begins to change. slowly at first, then with a speed that frightens you. You become aware of a new class of threat, more insidious than the political maneuvering of the freedmen. You become aware of the delatores, the professional informers. This was a dark and obscure custom of your age. Men who made a handsome living from accusing others, particularly the wealthy and powerful, of crimes. If the accused was condemned, the delator received a share of the victim's confiscated property. This system has filled the city with a low-grade paranoia, turning ambitious citizens into predators. You start to see them everywhere. The minor senator whose eyes linger on you for a moment too long. The scribe whose polite smile seems to hide a hungry, calculating mind. They are sharks circling in the water, smelling blood. You feel the shift in the smallest interactions. A group of noblewomen falls silent when you approach, their light chatter dying on their lips. You catch the flicker of a new expression in their eyes, not just deference, but a kind of fearful, fascinated curiosity. A servant, sent to you with a message, fails to meet your gaze, his eyes fixed firmly on the mosaic floor. These are just feelings, whispers in the air, nothing you can point to and accuse. But you know, the protective bubble of your imperial status has become porous. The world is pressing in. The first tangible proof comes from Lyra. Your faithful handmaiden returns from an errand in the city, her face pale. She tells you what she saw, her voice a horrified whisper. Scrawled in rough charcoal on the wall of a back alley near the forum was a crude drawing. A large, elegant flower being entwined by a serpent wearing a senator's ring. It's a vicious, unmistakable piece of graffiti. Your secret is no longer just a whisper. It is an image scrawled on a wall for all the world to see. The story has escaped your control. That evening, a message is sent to Silius. It contains no flower, no fragrant leaf. It is a single, smooth, dark stone from the bed of the stream in your garden. A message of warning, of gravity, of fear. His reply comes back with startling speed. It is a single, fresh, green laurel leaf, the symbol of victory, of defiance, of courage. He will not cower. He will not abandon you. In that single leaf, you feel his strength, and your fear hardens into something new. Resolve. You are no longer just secret lovers hiding from the world. You are allies, bound together against a city that wants to devour you. You stand on the terrace of your garden villa, looking down at the sprawling, twinkling lights of Rome. Each light represents a home, a tavern, a room where people are talking. And tonight, you know, they are talking about you. They are telling your story, a story that bears only a passing resemblance to the quiet, tender truth of your own heart. In Rome, you realize with a chilling clarity the truth of a thing mattered far less than the shape of the story told about it. The walls of your beautiful garden, your perfect sanctuary, suddenly feel impossibly thin, and you wonder how long it will be before the whispers of the city become a roar that brings them crashing down. The city's whispers follow you like a shadow, a constant faint murmur just beyond the edge of hearing. The crude drawing on the alley wall, the story Lyra brought back to you, has changed everything. Your love for Gaius Silius, once a source of private joy, is now a glaring vulnerability. Your garden sanctuary is no longer a fortress, it is a target. You realize with a cold, sinking feeling that a passive defense is a losing strategy. In the Roman court, to be vulnerable is to be food for the ambitious. If you want to protect your heart, you must learn to bare your teeth. The game has changed, and you must change with it. Your focus shifts from the soft earth of your garden to the hard marble of the palace. You begin to consciously build a network of your own. It is an old, unspoken custom among the powerful of Rome, the forging of amicitiae, strategic friendships that function as alliances. You are the Empress. You have the ear of the Emperor, a man who, in his own way, trusts you implicitly. This is a currency more valuable than gold, and you decide it is time to spend it. You begin to identify men of influence, senators, equestrians, legionary officers, who feel marginalized by the immense power of the freedmen, Narcissus and Pallas. During your morning salutatio, your greetings become more than just polite formalities. You hold a senator's gaze for a moment longer, asking after his family with a newfound sincerity. You invite an influential knight, a man who commands a vast shipping empire, for a private tour of your gardens, listening intently to his complaints about port taxes. You are not offering bribes. You are offering something far more seductive: recognition. You are creating a faction, a group of men whose loyalty is tied to you, and by extension, to the future of your son, Britannicus. Their fortunes will rise with yours. It's a dark, ironic thought that to protect a secret matter of the heart, you have been forced to become a master of the very public art of politics. The first test of your new resolve comes quickly. A rival noblewoman, Julia Livilla, the emperor's own niece and sister to the late Caligula, has been recently widowed and returned to Rome from exile. She is beautiful, clever, and, as a direct descendant of Augustus, possesses a lineage that rivals your own. You see the way she speaks to Claudius, a mixture of familial affection and subtle flirtation. And you hear the whispers she plants among the other court ladies, whispers about your youth, your spending on the gardens, and your particular friendships. She sees your rumoured affair not as a scandal to be avoided, but as a weakness to be exploited, a lever to pry you away from the emperor's side. She is a direct threat. The old you, the girl who hid in her gardens, would have endured it, hoping it would pass. The new you, the woman who received a defiant laurel leaf from the man she loves, knows she must act. This is a moment drawn from the historical record, a choice that will forever colour your name. You decide Julia must go, but you do not act out of jealous rage. This is a cold, strategic execution. You use your new network. You have your allies gather information on her, twisting her legitimate political ambitions into a treasonous plot. You discover she has been consulting astrologers, a practice Claudius has banned and deeply fears. You do not burst into Claudius's study with wild accusations. You wait for a quiet evening, when he is tired and his mind is pliable. You present your findings to him calmly, your voice filled with feigned sorrow and concern. You frame it not as a personal rivalry, but as a grave danger to his throne, to the stability he has worked so hard to create. You remind him of the conspiracies that have plagued his family for generations. You are not just his wife. You are the mother of his heir. You are protecting your family. He listens, his face clouded with worry. He trusts you. By morning, he has signed the decree. Julia Livilla is exiled once more, this time to an island from which she will never return. Holding the sealed papyrus in your hand, you feel no thrill of victory. You feel only a cold, grim satisfaction and the heavy weight of what you have done. You have destroyed a woman's life to protect your own. You have become a player in the most dangerous game of all. Your relationship with Silius changes too. In the moonlit safety of the garden, your conversations take on a new urgency. You still speak of poetry, But now you also speak of politics. He becomes your closest advisor. His knowledge of the Senate, of the key families and their loyalties, is invaluable. He tells you which men can be trusted, who is in debt to Pallas, who secretly despises Narcissus. Your love affair has deepened into a political partnership, a true alliance of two people bound by a shared secret and a shared danger. The freedmen are not blind. Narcissus, with his web of informants, sees you building your faction. Pallas, the treasurer, notices the flow of imperial favor towards your allies. A silent, cold war descends upon the palace. The air grows thick with unspoken rivalries. Every imperial decision becomes a battleground, a struggle between your growing influence and their entrenched power. One evening, you find yourself walking down a long palace corridor, lit only by flickering torches. At the end of the hall is a marble bust of Livia, the first empress. When you were new to this life, you saw her as a stern, judging ancestor. Now you look at her polished, empty eyes and see something else entirely. A survivor. A woman who navigated this same treacherous world of men and power and intrigue, and who won. You are no longer just reacting to the game being played around you. You have picked up your own pieces and are making your own moves. You are doing what you must to protect your love, your son, your very life. And you wonder, in the quiet of the night, if it is possible to hold on to your heart without losing a piece of your soul. The cold war with the freedmen intensifies. The palace becomes a chessboard of silent, hostile moves. If you promote an ally to a minor post, Narcissus finds a way to have him transferred to a distant, undesirable province. If Pallas secures a lucrative contract for one of his clients, you use your influence with Claudius to have the terms reviewed for the good of the state. Every day is a battle of whispers, of secrets, of veiled threats. The strain is immense. You feel the net tightening, and the constant fear of discovery gnaws at the edges of your peace. Your love for Silius, once a secret garden, now feels like a besieged city, and you both know its walls cannot hold forever. In the midst of this rising desperation, a new idea begins to form, an idea so audacious, so contrary to all logic, that it could only be born of love and terror. You and Silius are allies, partners in a dangerous conspiracy, but your alliance is based on whispered words and secret meetings. In a world where loyalty is a commodity and betrayal is a constant threat, you need something more. You need a bond that is absolute, a vow so sacred that it cannot be broken. You need to bind your fates together not just with promises, but with a holy rite. The plan takes shape during one of your hushed, late-night conversations in the garden villa. It is Silius who takes the first, irreversible step. In a move that stuns Roman society, he divorces his wife, Junia Silana. She is a respected woman from a noble family, and there is no public reason for the split. This is a verifiable, historical fact, a public sacrifice. He is burning his bridges, severing his ties to his old life. He is telling the world, in a language everyone understands, that his future is no longer his own. He is tying his destiny completely and irrevocably to yours. It is the ultimate act of faith, a terrifying and beautiful declaration of his commitment. Your opportunity comes when Claudius announces he must travel to Ostia, the port city of Rome, for several days to oversee the progress on the grand new harbour he is building there. With the emperor and, more importantly, his ever-watchful secretary Narcissus away from the city, you have a small window of opportunity. The whispers of the historians will later paint what you do next as a wild, debauched public spectacle, a drunken festival of madness. But that is the story told by your enemies. The truth, as you know it, is something far quieter, more solemn, and infinitely more desperate. You will not have a public party. You will have a private ceremony. It will take place in the most secure location you know, the inner hall of your villa in the gardens of Lucullus. The guest list is tiny, composed only of the handful of senators and knights who have staked their own futures on your faction. They will be the witnesses to your pact. On the chosen evening, as the autumn air blows cool through the cypress trees, your allies gather. The room is lit not by 100 festive lamps, but by a few solemn torches that cast long, dancing shadows on the walls. The atmosphere is not celebratory. It is thick with the gravity of the moment. Lyra, your faithful handmaiden, stands by your side, her face pale but resolute. Silius stands before you, his expression as serious as your own. There is no priest, no state official. You are far beyond the laws of the state now. One of your most trusted senators acts as the witness of honor. You perform a simplified version of the ancient Roman marriage rite, the sacred customs that have bound families for centuries. You and Silius join your right hands, the dextrarum iunctio, a symbol of your union in faith and trust. You share a small spelt cake, a humble offering to the gods you hope are watching over you. You sip wine from the same silver cup. Then, in the hushed stillness of the room, you speak the ancient vow, your voice a near whisper that every person present strains to hear. Ubi tu Gaius, ego Gaia. Where you are, Gaius, I am Gaia. It is the traditional vow of a Roman bride, a promise to share a husband's life and identity. But in this room, in this context, the words mean so much more. It is not a vow of marriage in any legal sense. That would be absurd. It is a vow of absolute fusion. Your fates are now one. If he is discovered, you are discovered. If he is accused, you are accused. If one falls, so does the other. When the last of your witnesses has departed, melting back into the Roman night, you and Silius are left alone. The adrenaline of the ceremony fades, replaced by the profound, terrifying weight of your actions. You have used the most sacred institution of Roman society to sanctify a secret that could tear that society apart. It was an act of such sublime, dark irony, a piece of theatre so bold it was either genius or madness. In the quiet of the villa, with the scent of autumn on the wind, you knew you had passed a point of no return. You had answered a whisper with a thunderclap. Holding his hand, you feel the cool metal of the simple ring he placed on your finger, a symbol of a marriage that could never be acknowledged, yet was more real to you than any state-sanctioned union. You are no longer just fighting a cold war for survival. You have declared a new world into existence, a world where your heart's allegiance is the only law you recognize. In the few fleeting days after your secret wedding, a strange and heady calm settles over you. You and Silius move through your public lives, the secret vow a hidden suit of armor around your hearts. You believe your audacious gamble has worked. Your faction is solidified, bound by the shared treasonous knowledge of what they witnessed in the garden villa. When Claudius returns from Ostia, you think, he will return to a Rome where your position is no longer precarious, but unassailable. You feel a sense of fragile control, a belief that you have finally outplayed Narcissus and the other freedmen. You even allow yourself to attend the city's autumn harvest festival, enjoying the boisterous, cheerful crowds, feeling for the first time in a long time like your future is your own. You are so blissfully, terribly unaware. While you celebrate in Rome, The world is being dismantled 40 miles away in the port city of Ostia. You can almost picture the scene as it must have happened. Claudius is there, happily distracted, inspecting grain shipments and poring over architectural plans for his new harbour. The salty sea air does him good. He is away from the pressures of the palace, in his element as a builder, a planner, an academic. He is completely oblivious. And it is into this peaceful, scholarly retreat that your great rival, Narcissus, chooses to strike. He has found a weak link in your chain. One of the senators who witnessed your ceremony has betrayed you, trading his loyalty for a promise of immunity and imperial favour. Armed with this first-hand testimony, Narcissus knows he has the weapon that can finally destroy you, but he proceeds with the cunning of a master strategist. He knows Claudius is prone to indecision, that his affection for you is deep, and that he might simply refuse to believe a direct accusation. So, Narcissus does not go to Claudius himself. He first approaches two of the emperor's favourite courtesans, women named Calpurnia and Cleopatra, whose company Claudius enjoys precisely because it is uncomplicated and non-political. This is a verifiable historical masterstroke of manipulation. Narcissus tells them everything. He instructs them to go to the emperor and, with tears and alarm, to plant the first seeds of terror. They find Claudius at his leisure and fall at his feet, speaking of a terrible danger, a rumour too shocking to repeat. They prime his fear before Narcissus ever enters the room. Then the freedman makes his entrance. You can imagine him, his face a mask of grim duty, his voice low and urgent. Claudius, confused and annoyed, tries to wave him away. But Narcissus is relentless. Piece by piece, he lays out the evidence. Gaius Silius has divorced his wife. A marriage contract has been signed and witnessed. Dowry has been paid. He then delivers the killing blow. He does not frame your actions as mere infidelity, a personal betrayal. He frames it as maestas, high treason. This was a specific and deadly charge in Roman law. Narcissus argues that your marriage to Silius is a direct attempt to establish a rival imperial family, a plot to assassinate Claudius and install Silius as the new princeps, with your son, Britannicus, as the puppet heir. It is a grimly ironic scene to imagine. The Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man in the world, having to be convinced, step by agonizing step, that his own wife has married another man. Claudius is shattered. The man whose world is built on order, law, and history is confronted with an act of chaos that defies all three. His trust in you, the foundation of your power, crumbles to dust. The old familiar fear, the terror that made him hide behind a curtain on the day he became emperor, rises up and paralyzes him. In that moment of imperial paralysis, Narcissus seizes absolute control. He does not wait for a formal command. Acting with the full, assumed authority of the emperor, he issues the orders himself. He summons a cohort of the elite Praetorian Guard, the same guards who once made Claudius emperor. He gives them their instructions. Ride to Rome with all speed. Secure the city gates. And arrest the Empress Messalina, the consul designate Gaius Silius, and every person who stood as a witness to their treasonous union. While you are still in Rome, perhaps laughing at a mime's performance at the festival, the gears of the state are turning against you with terrifying speed. Narcissus and a still dazed Claudius are in a carriage, racing back towards the city. Praetorian cavalry are thundering down the Via Ostiensis. Messengers are being dispatched to secure key officials. A web of steel and state power is closing around you, and you do not even feel its touch. As evening falls, You return to your sanctuary in the gardens of Lucullus. The joyous noise of the festival fades, replaced by the familiar peace of your private world. But tonight, the peace feels different. There is a strange chill in the air that has nothing to do with the autumn weather. You feel a sense of unease, a prickle of foreboding you cannot name. You stand on your terrace, looking over the darkening city, and you are unaware that the world you have built is already gone. It is a terrifying thing to realize how quickly a life can be dismantled, not by armies or earthquakes, but by a single, well-aimed word. That word was maestas, the storm, which for so long was just a gathering of clouds on the horizon, has finally broken over your head. The premonition of dread, that cold whisper in the garden, solidifies into a sound. It is not a sound that belongs here, in your sanctuary of soft earth and gentle fountains. It is the rhythmic, heavy tramp of marching feet, the harsh clang of iron-soled sandals on your stone pathways. Through the cypress trees, you see the glint of steel and the familiar crimson crests of the Praetorian Guard. But these are not the loyal men you handpicked for your villa. Their faces are hard, unfamiliar, and their eyes hold no deference. They march into your garden not as protectors, but as invaders. Chaos erupts. Your servants scatter, their cries of alarm swallowed by the sharp-barked commands of a centurion. The peace of your sanctuary is shattered by the brutal efficiency of the state. You see him then, Gaius Silius, running toward you from another part of the villa. For a fleeting second, there is a wild hope in his eyes, a belief that you can somehow face this together. But the soldiers are too fast. They surround him, their spears forming a cage of deadly iron. He does not struggle. He simply looks at you, one last long look filled with a world of love and regret, before they drag him away. Your secret vow, your shared soul, is torn from your side. In the ensuing confusion, you are placed under house arrest within your own villa. The soldiers are impassive, their orders absolute. And then, an unexpected figure from your past arrives. Your mother, Domitia Lepida. Your relationship with her has always been one of cool, aristocratic distance. But now, seeing you utterly broken, a strange, fierce strength ignites in her eyes. She wastes no time on tears or recriminations. "Weeping is for later," she says, her voice tight and urgent. "He is your husband. He is a fool, but he is not a monster. You must get to him. You must demand to be heard. This is your last, desperate chance." Your mother, using the lingering authority of her ancient name, summons the most sacred person in Rome, Vibidia, the chief Vestal virgin. To ignore a plea from a Vestal was an act of profound impiety, a risk few would dare to take. This is your final card to play. But there is no imperial litter for you, no fine carriage. The soldiers, following Narcissus's cruel orders, force you, your mother, and the priestess into a common public cart, a filthy ricaboo vehicle used for hauling rubbish. The humiliation is a physical blow. You, the Empress of Rome, are bundled into the back of a garbage wagon to beg for your life. The cart rumbles down from the Pincian Hill, its wooden wheels groaning, jostling you through the streets where only days ago you were celebrated. You reach the Via Ostiensis, the main road from the port, and wait. Soon, you see it, the imperial entourage, a whirlwind of dust and horses approaching at speed. Your humble cart trundles into the middle of the road, blocking the way. The procession halts. Vibidia, her white robes a stark symbol of sanctity against the dusty road, steps down. She approaches Claudius's carriage and makes her solemn plea, her voice clear and formal, demanding that the emperor not condemn his wife without a hearing. For a moment, the world holds its breath. This should be enough. This sacred intervention should grant you the audience you need. But from the window of the carriage, another face appears beside the emperor's. It is Narcissus. His face is a mask of triumph. He shouts down at the priestess, his voice slick with false deference, assuring her that the emperor will indeed grant you a full hearing later, that all legal forms will be observed. It is a lie, and everyone knows it. Then, the curtain of the carriage is pulled fully aside, and you see him. You see your husband, Claudius. His face is pale, his expression slack. He stares straight ahead, through you, as if you are nothing more than a rock on the side of the road. You cry out his name. You beg him to look at you, just once, but he will not. His eyes are empty, his will completely subsumed by the freedmen at his side. He gives a small, almost imperceptible nod. The driver cracks his whip, and the carriage lurches forward, rolling past you, leaving you choking in its dust. The journey back to the gardens is a silent one. The last flicker of hope has been extinguished. You are no longer empress, no longer a wife, no longer even a person of consequence. You are a prisoner, being returned to a cage whose key is now in your enemy's hand. When you arrive back at your villa, the atmosphere has changed completely. The servants you have known for years now refuse to meet your eye. Their faces are shuttered, their loyalty erased by fear. You are a ghost in your own home, a spectre of a power that no longer exists. You are escorted to your bedchamber and the door is closed behind you, the heavy sound of a guard's boots outside the only company you have. You walk to the window and look out at your beautiful garden. The sun is setting, bathing the cypress trees and rose bushes in a final, heartbreakingly beautiful golden light. It is the last sunset you will ever see from this window. Your lover is gone. Your allies are captured. Your husband has abandoned you. In the end, it was not the clash of swords that sealed your fate, but the chilling silence of a husband who refused to look at his wife. The world has collapsed into this one quiet room, and all that remains is the dreadful waiting silence. The sun has long since set, and the garden outside your window is now a landscape of deep shadows and soft, silvery moonlight. Hours pass in the silent room. Time itself seems to have slowed, each moment stretching into a long, quiet breath. You sit there, a still figure in the gloom, and the whirlwind of your life plays out behind your eyes. You see yourself as a girl, tracing patterns on a silk couch, your future an unwritten scroll. You feel the shocking weight of the Empress's purple robes on your shoulders for the first time. You smell the damp earth of your garden on the day you first claimed it as your own. You see a kind, intelligent face in a crowded room, the stolen glance that lit the fuse. You feel the cold weight of a simple ring, the symbol of a desperate secret vow. All the choices that led you to this single, quiet room. There is a soft knock, and the door opens. It is your mother. Her face is etched with a sorrow so deep, it seems to have aged her a decade in a single day. There is no hope in her eyes, only a grim, aristocratic resolve. She sits beside you, her hand cool on your arm. She tells you what you already know in your heart. Gaius Silius has been executed in the Forum. Your allies have met the same fate. There will be no trial. There will be no reprieve. Your life is over, she says, her voice devoid of emotion. All that is left is to choose the manner of its ending. She presses a small, sharp dagger into your hand, urging you to find the courage for a noble Roman exit, to deny your enemies their final satisfaction. But your strength is gone. The will to fight has bled out of you on the dusty road from Ostia. You can only shake your head, tears finally tracing silent paths down your cheeks as you hand the dagger back to her. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the final act of your tragedy is being set in motion. Claudius is at a lavish dinner party. He is drinking heavily, the wine working to dull the sharp edges of his shock and betrayal. As the evening wears on, a wave of maudlin sentimentality washes over him. He thinks of you, his young wife, the mother of his children. Perhaps he remembers a tender moment, a shared laugh. He turns to a servant and slurs a command, ordering that the poor wretch, as he calls you, be brought before him in the morning. He will hear your side of the story after all. Narcissus, standing nearby, hears these words, and a cold dread washes over him. He knows you. He knows your power over Claudius. If you are allowed to see the emperor, to speak to him, to weep before him, you will be pardoned. And if you are pardoned, his own life is forfeit for having gone this far. He cannot allow it. Acting with terrifying speed, he rushes from the dining hall. He finds the tribune of the guard waiting for his final orders. Lying with a cool audacity, Narcissus declares that the emperor has just given the command for your immediate execution. He dismisses the tribune's hesitation, forging the emperor's will to save his own skin. Back in your quiet room, you hear the final sound you will ever hear from the outside world. The heavy, determined footsteps of the tribune approaching your door. It opens, and he stands there, silhouetted against the torchlight from the hall, his face impassive. Beside him is one of Narcissus's own freedmen, sent to ensure the deed is done. Your mother continues to murmur at your side, urging you to be brave, to be a Roman, but her words are just a distant sound. You are led out into the garden, into the cool night air. The place of your greatest joy will be the stage for your deepest sorrow. You look up, through the dark spires of the cypress trees, and see the moon, cold and serene. A thought of your children, Octavia and Britannicus, flashes through your mind. A sharp, piercing pain. And then, the struggle is over. In the days that follow, your enemies move to erase you not just from life, but from history itself. The Senate, in a display of sycophantic fervour, decrees damnatio memoriae, the condemnation of memory. It is a chillingly methodical process. Stonemasons are dispatched to every monument, every archway, every public building, their chisels carefully chipping your name, Valeria Messalina, from the stone inscriptions. Your statues are pulled down from their pedestals, their beautiful marble faces smashed to pieces. It is an official attempt to make it as if you had never been born. But they failed. An empress who married another man while her husband ruled the world was a story too powerful to be erased by chisels. It survived. It lived on in the whispers of the people, in the secret diaries of senators, and in the hostile histories written by men like Tacitus, who painted you as a monster to serve their own moral lessons. They took the quiet truth of your heart, your loneliness, your search for a sanctuary, your desperate love, and they twisted it into a caricature of pure evil. Yet even in their condemnation, they kept your memory alive. They ensured you would never be forgotten. Empires fall and marble turns to dust, but a story of a heart that loved too bravely can echo forever. And so, the story of the young empress comes to a gentle close. The echoes of marching feet fade into the soft Roman night, and the whispers in the marble halls grow quiet, until all that is left is the gentle rustle of leaves in a moonlit garden. The sharp edges of tragedy soften with time, blurring into the sad, sweet melody of a story that has long since ended. All the fear and the passion, the secret vows and the desperate gambles have settled now, like dust motes dancing in a final ray of sun. There is nothing left to fight for, nothing left to fear. There is only the deep, profound peace that comes when the last page is turned and the book is finally closed. So let the memory of the garden and the whispers of history lull you into a state of deep and restful calm. Let the story dissolve into dream and allow yourself to drift into a peaceful, gentle sleep.